Namaste. Friends, welcome to the Let's Talk Show. Let's Talk Show brings a lot of value in your understanding, knowledge, and overall wisdom. Friends, we bring industry experts, entrepreneurs, and the people, those who have gone through really struggle time, and the lot of inspiration you can get from this show and the talk what these people are doing on Let's Talk Show. Please subscribe to the channel to get notification of all the videos. We are bringing all these experts for you to make you much more smarter with the smart podcast Let's Talk Show. Hello friends. We all believe in stories. Actually, we all are stories only. Over a period of time, we remember the feelings and the experiences what we go through in our life, and these all experiences are becoming story over a period of time. Friends, stories have deeper impact on the human psychology, child psychology, and in overall development of a human being. In today's episode, we have a very special guest. She is a storyteller. She is a teacher for the teachers. We have Indu Punj. She is an amazing personality. If you also would like to become expert into storytelling or teaching or training, must watch this episode. Let's learn from Indu Punj. इंदू जी, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग ऑन लेट्स टॉक शो। और बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है कि आप यू आर द वन हु इज डीपली इनटू द स्टोरीज। I firmly believe that we all are stories only, not more than any story. And whenever I see the older people, I often used to tell my kids, my wife, that these people, those who are very senior people, they carry a lot of stories. Over a period of time in the life, we all face a lot of challenges. We overcome upon the challenges, and then each and every challenge will help us to bring new story. So I'm really very happy to have you on my show, on Let's Talk Show. Let's begin this, and please share something about yourself. How have you started your journey, and what made you to fall into love with the story?
Thank you so much, Pankaj ji, for having me on your show. It is indeed my pleasure. Uh, Talking about myself, बचपन से जैसे कहते हैं, like my aim or goal and the only vision I had about myself was being an educator. So I taught for over 20 years with schools like DPS International and Air Force School. And then my second mission was getting married to a person in uniform. So my husband being an Air Force officer, I traveled across the country, collected a lot of stories, experiences, I would say diversity, culture, so which automatically gets imbibed in a person while traveling. After having taught for 20 years, I wanted to make a shift in my career. I had started feeling that I'm not going anywhere after this. So I shifted to an educational NGO, which is Katha, and the Katha name itself suggests stories. So they are the ones into who where I came across teaching through stories, and I for a year I kind of got trained, and I was direct to teacher training there. While doing that and learning process, I imbibed a lot, and I'm also a trained counselor. So I wanted, right from the beginning, I wanted to bring in mental health into it, which was not possible in their pedagogy. So I thought of designing my own program, which has a lot of inclusion, diversity, talks a lot about creating emotionally safe spaces for our children, where I feel the need to talk about gender sensitization and gender orientation and adolescence issues, learning disorders. So there I got that story connection and the connection with mental health, and this is how my story pedagogy was designed, which is talking a lot about improving the quality of education through stories and enabling better conversations around mental health. So you would see that every story that I talk about, it would be definitely or some self acceptance, gender and equality, equity. So every issue is basically, every story is a lesson. as you very rightly mentioned, when we talk about our life, we are all stories, and every story matters. This is how we talk about my logo, that it is a matter of head and heart, because they have a lot of emotional connect. Every episode of our life, when we look back, it has an emotional angle to it, and we never forget. So this is how my journey came to becoming a stories matter founder, and that's where how we have connected.
एक हिंदी का एक बहुत पुराना गाना है, एक प्यार का नगमा है, मौजों की रवानी है, जिंदगी और कुछ भी नहीं, तेरी मेरी कहानी, है ना?
बिल्कुल।
तो ये छोटी कहानी, बड़ी कहानी, लंबी कहानी, यादों भरी कहानी, है ना? अलग-अलग टाइप की कहानियों के अलग-अलग रंग होते हैं, अलग-अलग ढंग होते हैं। Me being as a trainer and a coach, I always believe that storytelling is the art which will help you to connect faster and connect better and connect deeper with the audience. Whenever I'm conducting my own session, I open my session with the story. I continue my session with the story. I end my session with the story. Please help us in understanding why storytelling is really very, very important for our teachers and the trainers.
Thank you for a very wonderful question. That's an integral part of my trainings, where I say that we all language, your learning begins with listening, you know. So ever since the child is conceived, or ever since inception, जब बच्चा एक माँ के गोद उसमें आता है गर्भ में, तब से वो सुनना शुरू कर देता है और महसूस करना शुरू करता है. Because stories are not just listening, there is a, as I said, emotional connect. So head and heart, child is undergoing that, even those 9 months where we have talked about this in our Vedas, in our stories, that growth begins from that first day itself. And when that child is developing, listening to his mother or her mother, and listening to people around, this is why they have that bond with those people only. And this is where your language development begins. And this is where our story begins, our narrative begins. And the day the child is born, the way he or she is welcome to this, that emotional connect, the warm welcome, or is it a cold welcome, the way a mother holds her child in her lap and cajoles her or sings a lullaby, everything is a developmental stone, milestone. So this is how a child starts learning, and we say language development begins with listening. And this is why stories are so important. The first part, that is active listening, or we are talking about lack of attention span. Instead of shouting at children, as you said, that you begin your session with the story, the moment a teacher begins her class with the story, you would not see a single child talking, because they all want to hear what happened next. There is a curiosity, there's creativity. So we say we connect children with language develop, not only language development. I talk about integrating stories into curriculum. So we say LSRW skills, which are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Then connecting children with books, because screen time is increasing and attention span is reducing to 6 seconds. And we say that if you tell stories to children, they would get connected back to reading. So enhancing the joy of reading through stories, developing language, developing vocabulary, developing reading skills will lead to speaking. Speaking will enhance your comprehension skill. Once you have comprehended well any concept, you have been able to understand what is being taught through a story or any concept, you will be able to write well. So first step is language development, and base of every learning, be it any subject, is language. Then you talk about skill development. Now, NEP has started referring about skill development, vocational development, and children should not only be rote learners, to put that learning to some use, which can get them a job. So, confidence, communication skill, empathy, compassion, not only for others but also towards your own self, which is abstract concept. आप बच्चे को empathy कैसे पढ़ाओगे? Compassion क्या होता है? आप एक story सुना दीजिए. एक सेकंड में समझ जाएगा how to be kind to animals or how to understand other person's pain. So all these abstract concepts, developing skill like speaking, confidence, everything. Then I would say it culture. When you talk about diversity and inclusion, talk about stories. Then when you talk about gender sensitization, so it is, I would say, a holistic development through a story. And within the 2 hours of session, I ask all my teachers, have I proved my point of teaching every concept through a story? So we take up story. I have kept one particular story for that, which I can't share here because that's like a very strong point in my workshop, which is like how one story can be connected throughout. We don't take create story for the lesson. The story is there. You have to find out what's the science element in it, what is the art element in it, what is the creativity, what is problem solving, so what life skill is it teaching. So it is a holistic development. I would recommend that each teacher should begin, at least her lesson should begin with a story, which will get her engagement, entertainment. Children would listen, they would concentrate better, they'll comprehend better, they'll speak better. So this is how stories really help.
Wonderful. Uh, some stories are really very, very meaningful and they go much, much deeper into it. At the same time, the way how a teacher or a trainer or a mother or anyone articulate the story. Story is the story, it's just like a water, has nothing, whatever color you add into it, it will become like it, right? The same. So here's something the deeper component of a storytelling. When I say deeper component, I mean that the body language. I mean the eye to eye contact, eyeball movement. I mean the expression and the ability to make your learners, participants, students visualize the story and make them to flow along with the story. And I feel that these are the components which possibly has much deeper, longer, sustainable impact on the audience. And these are some of the components which you feel are very, very important to keep in mind while telling story.
Okay, thank you. Of course, it's a very, very valid question. First is like we say, it has to be the connection. As if you haven't connected with your audience within few seconds or minutes, they would not listen to you. They'll get bored, and you will not get their attention, which is the most important part of a storyteller or a listener. So that bonding, and I also emphasize that teachers before beginning to teach a concept should build a bond with the child. You make them fall in love with you, and the moment they feel that, oh, I really want to listen to what she has to say, then after that, what you tell becomes a good story because it is the connection which matters the most. Then, secondly, of course, your body language, your own confidence, your ability to speak clearly, effectively, putting emphasis or voice modulation, but it is extremely important to emphasize on the words and taking right pauses. And you shouldn't be too fast or too slow. If you're too fast, people will not get you, and if you're too slow, they'll get bored. So this is again keeping pace, and a storyteller should have her own authentic style. Never ever copy somebody. If you are just copying, you are a copycat, then that authenticity is lost. Always create your own style because bring in your element to it, and adding lot of props. If we are especially with small kids, elementary kids, and even I would say foundation years, adding music to it, bringing some instrument, some kind of, we call it duckly or trampoline, or then you can wear masks. Make it as intriguing as possible depending upon the age group you are in, and involving your audience also within that. What do you think would have happened next? So these elements are a part and parcel of storytelling. Second is age appropriate. I can't tell a corporate employee a story which I tell junior students, or when I'm teaching the kind of story that I need to take, or it is just for entertainment, or is it for motivational purpose. So we have to choose stories accordingly. Is my motive to motivate here, or am I just trying to entertain a child, or am I emphasizing the need to read? So pick up stories accordingly, according to the message do you want to convey. So your message has to be very clear. Secondly, as they say, there is a beginning, there is an end, and in between there is a C. Third part is the conflict part, where you take it high, and now child is looking for a solution. So always bring it to a solution. Never leave it like where there is no, you haven't resolved an issue. This is where people connect, and I think that's it. These are the elements.
Yeah. Yeah. So now coming to the another part, which is called the storytelling, the epic stories from Ramayana, Mahabharata, and these stories has a lot of moral values, and they not only transfer the values, and they make newer generation aware about the history also. Right. So share something about how a trainer or a teacher can connect with these epic stories, because somehow the characters are known to the people, right? And the painful part here, what I see, when it comes to the pedagogy, when it comes to the child psychology and these people, they are aware about Spider-Man, they know about Batman, they know about Iron Man, but nowadays these people are more gadget savvy. Their most of the time goes into the mobile and internet like this. But these epic stories are really going to be minimal in terms of the interaction with the older people or the elder people in the family, like grandfather, grandmother, like this. So how do you see the impact on the children on this from these epic stories?
Yeah, as you have in your question answered so much already, the values that we are talking about, the culture, the history, everything comes with the story. When you talk about Sri Ramchandra and his character, his,
Yeah.
honesty, his, the way he listened to his father and just followed, instead of questioning him back whether it is a right thing to send him to exile. So every step, I would say, the family culture, helping each other. When there is a thing when we talk about four brothers, relationship management, Ramayana is all about teaching you everything about the families, how kids should respect their elders, and how elders should be sensitive towards the needs of their children. Then going and fighting for a cause, he did not want his wife to suffer for with the strangers. So this is, there is a lot, everything can be taught through Ramayana. Even Mahabharata is all about student, like when Shri Krishna talks to Arjun, there is a learning in everything in our if you see Bhagavad Gita, it is connecting lives, every aspect with the life skill. How in every life, in everyday life, we have to face challenges and keep going. And even if there are your own people against you, how you have to learn to fight for a cause. Like when we learn all these lessons of everything is fair in love and war. So these lessons, I think, they are brought from there only, but to make things easy, when we talk about Arjuna, everything about that thing, Mahabharata is a lesson. अगर हम गीता की बात करें, वो तो हर चीज ही उसमें वर्स हमारा एक lesson है. So the more we connect with such things, children will not only know about their culture, their history, they would also imbibe a lot from these stories. So bringing those small anecdotes, and when you talked about grandparents telling story, creating that environment in the family, we feel pained when kids, first parents are not valuing their own parents, and then grandchildren, they watch all this, and then how this is how it is passed in generations. But when grandparents, they sit and talk about this, they create a bond. with the child. Now, when child is getting bonded, we also talk about now why don't we connect old age homes with orphanages, where they when they learn from each other, children, grandparents learn a lot from their grandchildren about technology, usage of phone. भाई बेटा मुझे WhatsApp सिखाना, Facebook पे कैसे connect करूँ अपने friend के साथ. They do not know how to upload a picture. It's not only one way, it is both ways. So when we build connections, both are learning from each other, and then those values are getting transmitted to next generation. It's a very beautiful way of bonding with our generations. And when grandparents tell stories, children will always love to listen. I think a lot can be given. We don't even have to then worry about children watching those things which they shouldn't watch at this age. But there are a couple of stories I would like to make a mention of, which I have got inspired from small little story how a big message can be conveyed. Like there is a story of भेड़ है or sheep you can say, और वो बोलती है उसको सब because she is overweight, and it is about self acceptance. So everybody talks to her about losing weight in a different manner, by swimming, by running, by jogging, by cycling, and everybody suggests her do this. मटको साइकिल किया करो पतली हो जाओगी. फिर उसको बोलते हैं मटको तुम स्विमिंग करने जाया करो, तुम पतली हो जाओगी. तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, पर वो मटको बेचारी वैसी की वैसी ही रहती है. फिर वो अगले दिन जॉगिंग करने जाती है, रनिंग करने जाती है, स्विमिंग कर देती है, साइकिलिंग भी कर लेती है, पर वो वैसी की वैसी ही रहती है. एंड शी फील्स कि बहुत हो गया, एक दिन वो थक जाती है अपना सारी सब कुछ कर करके. पर उसकी उसको जरूरत क्यों पड़ती है? क्योंकि जो जिस जगह वो रहते हैं उसको बाड़ा बोलते हैं भेड़ों का. सो उसका जो गेट है वो बहुत छोटा है, नैरो है, एंड शी इज नॉट एबल टू गो गेट इट थ्रू दैट गेट. सो उसको बाहर सोना पड़ता है. अब वो मटको क्या करती है, एक दिन सुबह जब बाकी उसकी फ्रेंड्स आती हैं, वो देखती हैं कि ये मटको तो मजे से अंदर सो रही है, तो इसका क्या हुआ, इसने क्या किया. तो उन्होंने आके पूछा क्या हुआ, तुम पतली हो गई क्या, साइकिल करके पतली हुई क्या, योगा करके पतली हुई है, स्विमिंग करके पतली हुई. सबके क्वेश्चंस होते हैं सारे, एवरीबडी इज अमेज्ड, भाई ऐसे पतली कैसे हो गई रातों रात. तो बोलती नहीं कुछ नहीं हुआ, मैंने वो रात को बाड़े का जो दरवाजा है उसको खुला कर दिया. तो वो कहीं से वो लाती है औजार और उनको दीवार को तोड़ती है और अपना जो रास्ता बना लेती है. सो द स्टोरी इज बेसिकली कि अपनी लाइफ को बहुत ज्यादा तंग करने की जरूरत नहीं है. अगर आप पहाड़ नहीं चढ़ते तो जरूरी नहीं है कि चढ़ना ही है, आप उसको थोड़ा उतना ही चढ़ के खुश हो जाओ जितना आप चढ़ सकते हो. वन टेक वन स्टेप एट अ टाइम. Don't preach that you don't have to lose weight or you don't have to look fit. It is just about taking life easy. We can change the narrative to suit our requirement, and basically accepting yourself the way we are, instead of comparing and getting feeling low about it. Oh, her skin looks this way and her hair are this way, and why can't I look the same, or skin color. So children are comparing themselves on social media and getting depressed and feeling low. So these stories are basically to tell them that it is not okay to compare yourself. Be happy the way you are, accept yourself. Then small little another story is no biggie. So this girl is Kiki, and she is very fond of painting, playing with her dog, and she loves to paint. So it starts raining, and father is calling her, Kiki, come in, and she gets frustrated because all her painting gets washed away. And now the word is frustrated. So child feels frustrated. So she is like disgruntled and feeling very angry. And why has this happened? Then her father comes and says, Kiki, now the word is frustrated. So child feels frustrated. Come in, can we do it again? So every time she makes a mistake and she spills her milk or is not able to fix her zipper or whatever chaos she creates, so father or mother, instead of screaming at her or shouting at her, they say, can we try again? And she gets it right by doing it again. So the whole, then eventually Kiki starts teaching the same thing to her classmates, to her teacher, that it's okay, we can do it together, we can try again, and there is no biggie. So we can deal with our everyday frustrations by trying again, by and accepting failures, accepting rejection should be part of life. They are, we should take it as they come, and we can always try again, and there is no biggie. So this is a very beautiful story to tell every child that there is no biggie. Frustrations will come and go, but we have to just be calm. And it also teaches about a lot of other things, like how to be, how to have conversations with your parents. Can't scream when you are disturbed. Then third is about handling emotions. Talk a lot about social emotional learning in stories, where when child is disturbed, how parents should or teachers should tackle. You are not supposed to shout back. You just need to sit with them, allow them to calm, and allow children to go through that emotion. Allow them to feel that emotion, and this is how there is a emotional connection is built with the child through a story also. That if Kiki could do it, you can do it as well. You can also try doing things again. Third story, which is my very favorite, is The Rabbit Listened. This is again, this child is trying to make something amazing, something very special. And once he's built it all comes crashing down. And all the animals they've shown as friends, that somebody suggests this, chicks suggest this, then comes a bear, then comes a zebra. So there are a lot of animals who keep coming and suggesting, can we make it again, can we try to recollect, do you want to shout, scream? But he doesn't want to answer anybody, and he's sitting like in no mood to talk. I just don't want to talk, I'm too disturbed to talk. And in the end comes a rabbit, and rabbits come slowly. He keeps coming closer and closer and closer and sits next to him. And now he can feel rabbit's body, and he says, stay with me. And slowly rabbits allows that emotion to process, and then he starts talking about how it happened. He screams, he shouts, he cries, and now he's in a mood to rebuild it. So the story ends like, at times you want people to be just there with you, not to fix anything, not to suggest, not to give you any solutions. Just being there with others and just listening to them can solve a lot of issues. And and in the end, they hug each other, and it says hugs can say more than words. So these beautiful stories, when you show them as PDF and read out and talk in this emotion, children can feel that. Then we talk about what kind of friends do you want in life. So do you want to, with which animal did you associate yourself? Some people say, oh, I'm like a chicken, or I'm like a bear who would shout and scream. And somebody would say, oh, I am a rabbit. So if you expect others to be rabbits, are you a rabbit in somebody's life? So do you also have those qualities to listen to people and be there with them and allow them to express when they are disturbed? So there is again, I would say, a very huge lesson in a story. And when we talk about different characters, children, they connect. Okay, I'm just like him, I would have done this, and we should be like this. So without having said anything, it says a lot. That's how we teach.
Very nicely narrated all these stories. Yeah, thank you so much. And actually, when you were narrating the stories, I was just imagining the character. How,
Yeah.
yeah,
As yes, another thing that you had asked in that question, now I can tell you, that person should see the story when you are narrating, and they should
yeah,
feel it. When you feel a story, that is how you'll connect, and that message will reach you.
yeah, wonderful. So, to build connection, tell stories. To improve the listening skills, tell stories. To improve the imagination of the people, the students, children, tell stories. Help them in terms of visualizing the stories. Now coming to the another question nowadays, that is called the business storytelling.
the business leaders, corporate storytelling, business storytelling, and the leaders, successful leaders, are the master of these all articulation in telling the stories. You sometimes achieve your objectives, goals, and the numbers. Sometimes you won't achieve, and there are multiple reasons for that non-performance. So when it comes to storytelling in the business for the corporate people, what are the few things you would like to suggest to the corporate leaders and those who possibly will be listening over this podcast? So will be very, very helpful for the senior leaders.
Thank you. This is a very important, again, a very pertinent thing in today's world. First, to all the leaders, I would really request to be empathetic and compassionate. Whenever you talk to your team members, whenever there is a team being built, it's not everybody would be different. Again, accepting people the way they are. So, through storytelling or otherwise, the first thing as a leader we need to convey across the board is that we have to be compassionate, empathetic, not only to others, to our own self. Then bringing that culture of happiness is more important than bringing that stress. People are leaving their jobs because of toxic work culture. Even if there is a pay package, and but there is a lot of stress attached to it, and every day, every morning, I dread going to my office. I think the environment is toxic and we need to change. And bringing such things like some kind of humor, some kind of excursion, some kind of storytelling, that's important. First are these as I said, compassion, empathy, and then is gender sensitization. That's extremely important now. Equality, because people earlier we were not talking about all this genders, having those gender neutral environment, but in today's day, or I would say in 21st century skill, this is extremely important, where we are sensitive, we are inclusive, and we are accepting of various cultures and diversity. If people are coming from small towns, you shouldn't look down upon them if they are not able to communicate well in English, but I could be very well in my skills. I could be very good in making Excel sheets than a person who is born and brought up in a metro city. But then you should focus on my skill in my development rather than getting humiliating the person. So the leader should be able to raise and should be able to make his or her team a better version of themselves. They should be able to see the potential in a person and hone that. दे से अगर आप में ये काबिलियत है कि आप मेरी वो कला पहचान पाए, आपने मुझे बुलाया। इसी तरह एक लीडर में ये क्वालिटी होनी चाहिए कि अगर मेरे पास 10 लोग हैं, उनकी हर क्वालिटी क्या मुझे पता है कि मैं उनको उसी क्वालिटी पे काम करवाऊँ। And then we make a better team for which is working towards a single goal, that is the company, taking the company to a next level. But that can happen only if my personal goals and personal needs are met well. That's extremely important in any work environment across, I would say, even if it's not corporate, anywhere. If your team is not happy, they can't perform. I hope I've answered it right, or the question was something else.
Very nice. No, it's absolutely on point. Leaders has a very larger role to play in any organization, and leaders can transform the entire organization by changing the mindset of the people, thinking of the people, psychology of the people. Where
Yeah,
business
one more
storytelling.
point, Pankaj, I would want to add here is like a leader has to be a facilitator. Instead of bragging about what he has been doing and how he has changed the company, he should give others the chance to rise. I should be able to create 10 of my kind rather than just being there alone and leading. So that should be the aim, that okay, there are 10 more people like me who can take over if I am not there.
Yeah. So, Induji, one more point I would like to bring in here. Now, you use the word in the terminology called facilitator. Now, many people do not understand the differentiation between a trainer, teacher, and the facilitator. Facilitation, would you like to say something on this?
So I'll take you back to my classroom where I learned it from my leader. So she would say कि teacher should not be teaching, or a leader shouldn't be, there shouldn't be chalk and talk method where your learner is a passive learner. They should be actively involved in learning. That involvement of the learner has to be active. So when we say facilitator, I'm instrumental to making that learning happen. In my workshop, also in my teaching all throughout my school system, I would divide the topic into four, and my students would give presentations. After having taught for the first week, next 3 weeks would be taken over by students giving their presentation and explaining the topic with the project, with the with an assignment, in their words and their ways. In that time also, they would create small little videos to explain simple machines or any small little model, and it wasn't necessary to make big huge things. It was, even if you are explaining through heating a spoon on a candle and you are able to show, make your point, that's a project. So this is how you are facilitating learning. You allow your children to research. If somebody asks me a question, and I don't have to feel bad about not knowing an answer, rather I make it into a research question and let all 30 people research on it and bring out that answer, and we discuss it the next day. So creating that learning environment and nurturing their potential is what is the role of a facilitator. A teacher is just teaching the concept and then assessing them. That's not teaching anymore. That's a rote learning where you are just testing them on their knowledge, what they have crammed, what they have learned and then vomited. So you are creating, they are just recreating what you've taught. Whereas a facilitator will take the learning to another level where you go beyond text, where you are more into experiential learning. This is what we are all talking about, and this is how in a 4 hour or 3 hour of workshop, I just take 1.5 hour in teaching, and 1.5 hour those teachers have to perform what I taught. And you won't believe that I am single person, they would be 60, 80 or 100 people doing the same thing. They will bring, they would take the same concept to another level altogether, and it feels so good that within half an hour you've been able to achieve that. When they perform in groups in those 10 minutes, the kind of presentations they give, that's amazing. And it's really heartening and heartwarming to see them perform and learn the topic what you've taught. So this is facilitating. You can't be there with them, you should leave them with the idea which they can implement in their classroom. It's not that you get up after a workshop and you don't even remember what was said in these 2 hours. But when they perform themselves and then ensuring 100% participation, that also motivates people to do more. That should be the aim of every teacher. I have taken this quote from a book, which is like, my every child should feel visible in the class. Let no child feels insecure, invisible, unheard. That's a facilitator.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing, all these points. The teaching and training and facilitation, these are all three are the various different components. And if you're conducting a session for 45 minutes or maybe for 1 hour, divide this into all these three. When it comes to facilitation, facilitation is not about teacher or the trainer. Facilitation is all about giving the responsibility to the learner, where you just facilitate, you just help them to navigate the discussion sessions, learnings into the right direction. So who owns the responsibility for the learning? The learners here in the facilitation, where teaching and training is really a completely different kind of thing. Where in teaching and training, you share them about what, you share them about in training how things happens. But here in facilitation, you give them the responsibility for the learning. Now coming to the next and the second last question. How does storytelling help in impacting the psychology of a child?
I have, I think, through all my questions, talked about it. When we talk about abstract concepts, build, building bonds or empathy or having equality in every relationship, not only in genders, even across when in a family, children are should be brought up in a manner that everybody owns self resilience. I would say everything about your personality can be taught through a story. Self acceptance, जैसे अभी हमने problem solving, critical thinking, then the ability to ask questions, also to reach solutions. uh, Through stories we also teach a very big lesson, that is having a solution based approach towards life. Like your bosses would always want you to bring a solution rather than bringing a problem to table always. That okay, and be becoming contributor, responsible citizens of the country. हम सारे बोलते हैं हमारे देश में बहुत गंद है, पर वो गंद फैला तो हम ही रहे हैं ना. When I go for a workshop to any smaller, like recently I was in Muradabad, I said, what right do you have to teach a child, teach about cleanliness? When there is no cleanliness around your school, your classrooms, your environment, when you do not reach your class on time, when you do not prepare for a lecture, what right do you have? So, psychology, everything that a teacher or an adult does in front of a child is a lesson. They are imbibing, they are just what do you call these sponges, they are absorbing. So when we tell these stories, we are in a way giving those messages to be responsible towards themselves, self accepting. So this is a lot of psychology. When we say emotional connect, children feel happy listening to stories. It's just like mind gets relaxed. And there is a whole study being done. It is not something that I have created. It says like group of students were asked for a donation, and one group was shown a story where a father wants help because his child is suffering, 8-year-old son is suffering from brain tumor, whereas the other group was not shown a story and they were asked for the donations. But the ones who saw the story, 95% of them donated. That was the impact on their emotion. They could see the pain, they could empathize, they were compassionate, or they were like able to have that feeling for the father, and they wanted to save the child. So this is the emotional, this is the impact you can create. Stories can be life changing. If we talk about all our leaders who've done so much in the past, in history, and even these Olympic players, those who win medals, when we tell stories, how from small little village, Mary Com or this whosoever has won medals for us, how they could go and fight for their country and could bring laurels not only for themselves but for they made their country proud of them. So they are motivational, inspirational. So this is everything to do with psychology only. If he could do it, I can do it too. And that thing a story can do. This is what our movies also do. So story need
Yeah.
not always be told, it can be shown also. We can use videos, we can use movie clips, we can read out to them, but we have to have those stories with us to motivate our classrooms and make them more intriguing.
Now, coming to the last question, any message you would like to communicate to all our teachers, trainers, and the audience?
Yes, my first message to all the teachers and trainers and leaders is first build a bond with your team, your students. Once you win them over, you've bonded well, you can teach and make them do anything for your institution or your class or your learning. I have always seen students learn better from teachers whom they love. So first is love quotient has to be there, building bonds and learning to connect at a deeper level, not shallow level, where I understand my child why today he or she is upset. Second is do not keep just penalizing them without understanding the root cause of the problem. If you have not understood, is this a learning disorder or a behavioral problem, don't keep passing judgments. Do not write. First, find out where is this child, what is the issue behind. There is always a backstory for a non-performer. It could be a learning disorder, there could be a issue at home, there could parents could be undergoing a divorce, so child is undergoing a lot of trauma. So connecting with your team, with connecting with your children at a deeper level to understand their lives is again a very important issue. Third is about your own self. Take care of your eating habits, your sleeping patterns, your give adequate rest to your body, take care of your own needs. If you are happy, then can you take care of others. So keeping yourself happy and healthy and uh, becoming a best version of yourself. We are all a work in progress, a story which is not yet finished. It can be edited, it can be modified, it can be rewritten if you wish to. Don't keep taking that narrative which was given in the childhood. Try to improvise and become a better version of yourself, and you can never stop learning in life. Thank you.
Progress. So make small promises with the children. If you have kids in your family, make promises. Okay, from today onwards, I will not do this. If I will do this, then I will not have this. Right? Say sorry. Whenever something happens, and
Yes.
this is what when you
Accepting.
demonstrate in front of the yeah. So they learn it, and this is how the entire is. So thank you so much, Induji, for showing us the power of storytelling and the power in stories. I believe that the people, those who will be listening and watching this podcast, this will be very helpful for them. And possibly this kind of podcast should be shared with all the teachers and the trainers, those who are in the profession. Storytelling and stories plays a very important and deeper, vital role. Yeah. Thank you so much being on the show. We will love to connect with you again on another podcast to learn more about stories. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, and thanks a lot for inviting me at your platform. I look forward to, I'm sure we should connect again. Thank you. All
So
the best for your future endeavors.